Hello, everyone. I'm Ten Types, joined by Uncommon Fossil, and welcome to the Reasonably Effective podcast. We were both outside, and now our allergies are acting up, so hopefully that's not too bad. And we hope you're feeling well at home. But yeah, Uncommon Fossil want to introduce what we're talking about today.
Yeah, so today we got, I think, something enjoyable. We're talking about everybody's favorite type of Pokemon, and that is three prize Pokemon. Because everyone says the glory days of Pokemon are back, where it started when they brought in three prizes.
Exactly.
That's not, obviously, that's not being tongue in cheek there, but we started playing when three prizes were in the game, as with a lot of people, and they weren't as awful, I think, as people make them out to be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, we're going to talk about some, and some of our favorites, and some we like to play, and some that are just like good,
Yeah,
that we like.
right. There's some good ones that we're not going to give much attention to, so we'll mention those as we go. Going to talk about some tag teams and some VMAXs. Part of what we're doing it now is right now there actually are three prize Pokemon still in standard format, although most of them don't see any play. So, but figure do it now before all these three prizes go away from standard forever. Hopefully forever, I would think, for most people's viewpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think they can be interesting at times. I would not be shocked if we get three prize EXs. We've not seen that from any of the X's,
Right.
but
I do realize we forgot a type in our preparation, but I think we can write that off.
oh yeah,
There are V Union Pokemon.
yeah, there are Pokemon
Four
V.
cards that make three prizes.
Yeah,
But none of those. We're only going to talk about a few. I think that there's not any reason to talk about those.
no, I forgot about them because none of they were all promos and they're just weird. I did a video where I ranked the different mechanics, and I don't know if they were last, but they're pretty bad. Anyway, so for those of you who don't know what tag teams are, they are three prize Pokemon. They are all basics, and they're all GXs. Well, okay, sorry. The tag teams, there's two different types of tag teams. There's tag team supporters, which are
Hmm.
not Pokemon, so we're not talking about them.
Right. I mean, the GX are kind of like VMAXs, but tag teams had supporters as well, which aren't VMAX supporters, and there were GX Pokemon before the tag team, right? The GX Pokemon were two prize Pokemon, and then I think like the second year, I think then they made
Third year.
the third year, 2 years of two prize GXs, some of which were evolution Pokemon, similar to the EXs now, and then they added these tag teams that were all basic three prize Pokemon, up in the HP, up in the prizes.
Yeah, and then yeah, so all basics, and then the VMAXs, which are essentially all stage ones, evolve from two prizers.
Right.
And then the tag teams, the whole gimmick. There's a few different gimmicks, but they have so they have GX attacks. I guess what the Pokemon itself, there's two or three different Pokemon on the card, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Makes the names really long. I didn't like. I kind of forgot. So there's a card revealed. It was like an Ogerpon. I thought it was fake because the name was squished. But like literally some of the Pokemon are two lines, the names. So
Right. They didn't squish it. They made it two lines, and a lot
some are
of them
squished.
have abbreviated names. Kind of like how I was playing Arceus Dialga, and you call it Arctina.
Arceus, Giratina.
Arceus Giratina. Sorry,
We'll
yeah.
get to
You
Arceus
call it
Dialga in a minute.
Arctina. So you kind of do that since this, rather than being a deck, it's one Pokemon. Sure.
Yes. When people talk about these. Outside of that, they have GX attacks. GX attacks are the same as V-Star powers.
But no abilities.
Yes, they're all attacks. And with the tag teams, they have an interesting like gimmick here. And this is also true of the supporters, but it's a little different. They have attacks that like do something, but then if you pay an additional cost, or if you have so most of them are extra energy.
Right.
Some are if you play, I think, certain supporters, and I think that's it. Right?
Yeah. I mean, mostly for the most part, though, it's extra energy.
Yeah. And then so then it will do like something more, which we'll talk about.
Right.
But I guess we should talk about Pikachu and Zekrom first, real quick. This one was the first one. A lot of them have three attacks, or a good chunk have three attacks or two attacks in their
Hmm.
ability, but Pikachu and Zekrom doesn't. Has 240 HP as a basic, which was the highest we'd seen at that time, I think.
It might be.
I don't know. Is
I
Warlord
don't know.
DX higher?
I don't know.
Okay, you can look it up. So we're next
You
to
want
each
me to look
other.
it up?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's like
Kind of
searching for live.
spell.
It's like whale, WAIL.
Okay.
Is that how you spell
W what?
AIL? Oh wait, it's not like whale.
It's
It's
not like.
like it's
Wailord
Yeah.
EX.
Yeah, Wailord DX has like a lot of HP. Is it 280? Oh, it's 250.
250. And this
Okay.
is 240
So
though,
it is
right?
not the highest HP we've seen, but we had seen, but it was
Right.
very high. Um, I don't think that's right. Wailord DX. Anyway, so there was, but very high HP. Eventually saw some with 300, but Pikachu and Zekrom, it was like good. Um,
It was very good. You were always a hater for people that really love Pikarom. You were a hater. This was back before Live was out, and so I will say the in-game economy for people that want to spend money was much tougher, and to get these cards wasn't easy.
yeah, but it was
So I
still,
never had access to it. I don't know if you really
well, it
had.
was free on the ladder at one point. Um, so. Yeah, that was like a thing that is worth noting. But yeah, anyway, so I don't know. Am I just imagining this for LRDX? I'm looking at it on like a separate screen. Um,
Well, there's two Wailord EX's arts for
yeah,
250 HP. So I don't know what
yeah.
you want. There was a Wailord. Oh no, that's
Yeah,
tag team.
there's a tag team where with like 300 HP, which is like a thing. As that might have been the highest, but anyways. So the Pikachu and Zekrom, cool card. We're not really gonna talk about that.
Right. I think we spent plenty of time on that. It was a very good card, obviously, for a long time. I guess it never had a chance to compete for like Worlds, did it?
Well, I don't know. So
Or
this
did it
is
at first?
weird.
I
This
lose
gets into
track.
kind of weird territory, but there was the World Championship, or the Players Only Global
Right,
Championship,
the POG.
which is kind of
But it
I
wasn't an official Worlds.
no, but it was essentially Worlds, especially the first one, which Pikachu and Zekrom did win.
Hmm.
Um, so assuming you view it from like that angle, then it did win. That if you don't, then it didn't.
Right.
But it was well, actually, it did. I think it won a different division, so it did actually
Okay.
win an official world championship.
Unofficial World Championship, I'd say.
Well, the alternate division is official.
Well, but that was at the POG Championship.
No, at Worlds, I believe
Oh, at
it
Worlds the
won.
year before. Okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it went through like different
Yeah, it might
phases.
have been better at the end with later tools.
Yeah, it was better early on, and it was better later on. In
Okay.
the middle, it was like still very good. But
All right.
and then let's talk about the other one. That's kind of the alternate to it. A lot of these had very iconic Pokemon.
Yeah.
So Zekrom, we got a Reshiram card instead of Pikachu with Charizard. So
That's right. The other Pokemon everybody likes to collect.
yep,
And
Reshiram.
Charizard, that is. And this is one of the good Charizards, right? There haven't been a lot of playable Charizards, I think.
Yeah, although of late they've
I'll-
started kicking it up a little.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that now, right? If you're a new player, you're like, what do you mean Charizards aren't good to play? But because it's busted now, basically. But so this was what I played a lot, so I'll kind of take it off. It's a fire Pokemon. There was good Firebox, Fire Tools at the time, for those that know.
Yeah, you recently made a video,
I
right?
did, yeah, an expanded video, which I actually didn't play this. It was a gouging fire
Yeah,
deck.
it's this is outclassed by Gouging Fire because it always does more damage.
Well, or does this? I don't remember.
Oh wait, no, sorry. You can do more
This might have
damage
been a gouging
technically.
fire deck too, as well.
I
I
don't
don't
think it
remember.
was.
I have an older deck too older video that has this. I mean, it's very good, and it was a very good card at the time. It's got 3 attacks, so
And 270 HP as well.
270 HP. So I don't know if anything was bigger at that time when it came out. It was, if not, it was just about the
Yeah,
biggest,
this
right?
is like kind of the average.
Yeah, so very tough to take out. And Welder was in format, and that could accelerate 2 fire energy on your second turn. Or I guess could you play supporter on your going first when this came out?
When it came out, you could, yes.
Okay.
Some people said that that is the reason why they changed the rule.
But you couldn't
Um,
attack still.
no, you couldn't attack. Yeah.
So, but if you went second, which you'd want to do with a Welder deck, it was really high roll. You could get 3 energies on it, and then you would use the GX attack. As with all GX attacks, it has 2 options. This is the one.
All tag team, yes.
Tag team, I'm sorry, yeah, tag teams had the GX attack and had 2 options. This is the one of the few ones that you usually used without the extra energy because you could do it your first turn. So for 3 fire energy, you did 200 damage, and then which was great. Most things you could one shot a lot of things with that.
Yeah, not everything, but
No,
not
not
other
another
teams.
tag team, but most but very very good. You're very pleased if you could do that. And then if you had extra energy, what did it do? If this Pokemon has at least 3 extra fire energy, which you're not getting powered up in your first turn, it doesn't. The attack does 100 more, so it does 300. And it's not affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon, which obviously can be important at times too. So if you didn't need to use if you could save your GX attack, you could do um, the 301 attack, which was tremendous. But you need a lot of energy on
Yeah,
it.
I remember. So there's a deck called Decidueye that has a walling attack. It's also grass type, so you could I believe it does affect hit weakness. So you could like instead of it walls it off completely with its ability, but you could use your GX attack to hit through it once, so you do 600 damage to single fires there because they're weak,
Right.
which is like a thing. It was kind of funny.
So you either did 600 damage or 0 damage
Yeah.
if you didn't have this attack. So you did 200 damage. Hopefully, a lot of times you were taking out like
A two prizer.
like the Dene GX or something like that.
Yeah, Zacian V was pretty common.
Yeah, so super there, and then it's got two other attacks, which depend on what happened there, both were very good. If you didn't get knocked damaged into, then the second attack for 4 energy, so you just attach one more energy manually, does 230. They can't use that attack again the next turn, so that actually would do even more damage the following turn if you did 200, 230, or if your opponent hits into you, it had outrage. A retaliation attack did 30 plus 10 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon, and it's 270 HP. So potentially, you could do 290 potentially if they got you down to 10 HP. So if you started this and got going, you were just beating up your opponent really hard, really fast.
Yes. Although it could get one-shotted, later on water stuff came in welder decks, especially because this gives up 3 prizes.
Yeah.
So if this gets one-shotted by like say Palkia, when Palkia is good, or Ice Rider,
Right.
then there's literally nothing you can do.
Right. But you're talking about like these are late on cards, right? These weren't around early, were they?
No, I mean Ice Rider recently rotated a few months
Yeah.
ago.
So part of it is, well, I mean, some of it, I'm sure we'll talk about some metal Pokemon. So Fire was very good, had all these tools, stadiums, items to get energy. You could get energy from the deck, energy from the hand. You could exert energy. You could just do these tremendous things with a number of fire attackers. So metal was kind of unplayable in a sense.
I guess it was weird. It was a bad against Fire.
Yeah.
There's a certain deck that you'll talk about that you didn't love to see Fire, but and with this this did, again, World Championships don't like mean that much. They mean something, but this did win the World Championships. We'll talk about that later though, because it did not do it on its own. And so I guess we'll move to. Well, what do you want to talk? Do you want to talk about?
If you want to keep doing it in kind of chronological order,
I think let's skip to the next one, actually, Mewtwo and Mew, which did pair with Reshiram and Charizard a lot. Mewtwo and Mew had its ability Perfection, which is, I mean, that's a cool name, but it does have a GX attack. It actually has one attack. Its only attack is a GX attack. So if for some reason you couldn't use your ability,
or Perfection's ability, if they could wall off your ability,
you can only attack once per game with this Pokemon,
Right.
which would happen, and you would not be so happy about that. But the attack here, or sorry, the GX attack, it does, again, 200 for 3. That's pretty standard. We see it on Pikachu and Zekrom, or Pikachu, Reshiram and Charizard, which is called Reshizard, Mewtwo and Mew, which is, I don't know what people call this one. There are a few things like Mew 3,
Okay.
Mew, Mewtwo.
Or Mewtwo and Mew also.
Yeah,
So,
and then it's written as Mew with the E as a 3 sometimes. That's actually pretty common. But yeah, it does. You can heal all your damage if you have an extra energy from all of your Pokemon. It's pretty cool, but you wouldn't use it very often.
right. You just right. Usually a copying with the Perfection ability.
Yeah, and you want to say what that does?
Yeah, so this is the key to the deck, and kind of the ultimate box style deck. This Pokemon can use the attacks of any Pokemon GX or Pokemon EX, that's capital EX, on your bench or in the discard pile. So super nice there. You still need the necessary energy to use each attack. So unlike, say, Regidrago V-Star in format now that copies of the dragons from the discard pile, you pay Regidrago's attack cost, you have to have the energy for the attack you're copying. So if you want to have a lot of different types, you'd have to be able to get powered up with the energies you needed.
But also one thing I want to say that's kind of stupid is that, like, it's EXs, but they essentially rotated when this came out. So
This was right before rotation.
I think so. I don't remember exactly, and certain stuff was weird. I guess it's for like expanded mostly.
Yeah.
In expanded, this card's so cool. Well, in full expanded, in live expanded, it's like still cool. but it doesn't do the lowercase EXs, and then also we don't have any
The
of the
uppercase
capital
EXs we
Yeah.
can't play.
Oh yeah, you can't play now. So there are some cool ones. There's Mega Gengar, which like moves damage, I think. No, Mega Gengar copies attack, so you copy your opponent's attack, which is really fun. And then I think it was Mewtwo EX, like heal or moves damage from you to your opponent. I might be getting them switched, but I liked those. I played this deck and expanded a lot. But in standard, you could run it again with Welder, right?
Right, you could build Fire Mewtwo, certainly, and then you've changed. And if water was a concern, then you could,
Like tech this in.
right. So it gave you a different weakness to avoid and to hit into as well.
Yeah, and this was really interesting. There was a card Jirachi GX, which turned off, I believe it was Psychic weakness. So if you're weak to Psychic, you wouldn't be weak to this.
Right.
Really interesting in the mirror because obviously it is Psychic and it's weak to Psychic. Because during this time, Psychic was weak to Psychic. And then later on, we got a Pokemon that we'll get to that was weak to Psychic that would sometimes play Jirachi GX. So we got some interesting weakness things here. And you could copy tag teams. So Reshiram and Charizard, was that the #1 target?
I don't know when it was early days. I mean, I remember late days, like grass was a big thing.
It wasn't that big. I mean, it was kind of
Well,
a thing. Grass wasn't such a good thing because fire was so good.
Right. Well, it was the way to, I guess, the way to play grass, right? Because you were attacking with a psychic weak Pokemon, not a grass weak Pokemon.
Yeah, but you could do this with. There's like Ultimate Mewtwo, which is like kind of like funny. I think it was just like a joke, but it was like actually good. It was weird. And then there were so many like different Mewtwo's, and they all had like weird names. Relish was the grass one, right?
Yeah, that's
Which
right.
I don't know if people like called it that. I've heard of that. And then there was I don't know what the names were. Deck names were like really weird at this time. I mean, they have been weirder, but and then so there's a Water Mewtwo deck. I guess that wasn't very good. You could tech this into any GX deck as well, a tag team, because this normal GXs were all bad outside of like, or with all bad attackers, I think.
Were there any evolution GXs that were good? Because the nice thing is, if it was an evolution GX, you could just discard it. You didn't have to bother getting it to play.
Yeah, there were evolution GXs that you would use as tech options usually. I'm actually going to pull up a list because this card's really fun. There's a ton of options. Pretty much like a lot of GXs were like good. I mean, not that good, but if you're like a stage 2, but you can attack as a basic, because they don't need to be basics. They're copying. Where's this?
So there were. I'm just looking. So there were at Players Cup final. That was during COVID.
The fourth one.
The fourth one. There was Dark.
Oh
They
yeah.
played it in Dark decks with Weavile. Someone played it with. There was Pikachu and Pikarom decks, a Victini deck, Fire decks. So that's
Mostly fire. If you want to focus on it. So there was Solgaleo. There was 2 Solgaleos. There was, and this is the deck with Welder. It won the world championship. It was pretty interesting. We didn't really play it back then,
right.
that like seriously. But then there was, I mean, there's a lot of GXs. I'm like looking through the list. There's just so many. I should be showing this, but it's a lot of fire stuff. There is, I will point out Keldeo GX. This is a water Pokemon. I feel like it's worth mentioning. It walls GXs and EXs, again, mostly GXs, and so it walls a lot of Pokemon, and it is water, so it does hit fire weakness, which is interesting.
Yep.
There's an Incineroar EX that could do like 1,000 damage. Oh, funny story. Not that funny, not that much of a story, but the other day I did 1,000 damage to a Cramorant with the thing.
Or Cramorant.
Yeah, they hit me. They hit me, and I had 10 HP left. There was.
Chichino Mill deck played it. But anyway.
Oh yeah,
But
there was Psychic Mewtwo with Malamar. That deck was not. I don't know much about it. There were some Psychic Pokemon as well. Oh, there was like a Psychic Mewtwo where you copy this like really bad attack. There's Turbulent Duskmorn. You want to talk about Gengar Mimikyu? That was a card.
Oh, that's one of my great hates.
Yeah, that card is not fun to play against. That deck, it wasn't, but not super common.
Well, it was in Psychic decks, right? But probably wasn't more like when Shadow Rider came out.
Yeah, it was really good with Shadow Rider, Calyrex Vmax. We're not going to really talk about that. That was really good for like one set.
Yeah, no, it was very good because I hated that for a while. The Gengar and Mimikyu with the Horror House, that was this GX attack. It was largely there just to kind of do that a lot of times.
Which just stops your opponent from playing any cards on their turn for 1 energy. which is just absurd. Essentially, they can't do anything. Essentially, it gives you an extra turn. They can
Right.
play like set up their board a little, but it's pretty
They
like
can, well, they can't play any cards from hand,
yeah, at
so
all.
you,
So
right.
oh
So
yeah,
you're
so they
limited
can
to it. Probably can't attack
yeah,
even, potentially if they're set
yeah.
up for it. But so basically, you got 2 turns in a row to set up with it, and it wasn't a lot of fun to play against because you're like, all right, I'm just gonna sit here for a while.
Yeah, one last tag team I want to talk about before we talk about the metal ones, which we're going to get to in just a moment. But there was another tag team. This gave you an extra turn for 2 fairy. This so fairy there was Gardevoir Sylveon, which was all right, and there's another one Togepi, Clefairy, Igglybuff, the baby trio. This card was complete garbage. But again, you can do 2 fairy, which is kind of awkward. But if you do it, you get an extra turn, which is like all right. But you don't do any damage. But if you have 14 extra fairy energies attached, um, so you need 16 fairy energies, which is a lot, right?
It's a lot of, yes, it is.
And then like there's a leaked card, and there's a card kind of like this. Oh no, there's like a sorry, there's a card that accelerates 7 energies
Okay.
for like some absurd attack cost. The Jurassic Erasing Rare, and you'd need to use that twice to get the energies on. But anyway, the way you play this, it was like weird. But then you discard all your opponent's bench Pokemon and take an extra turn.
Right.
So it's like just like so out
Right.
there.
You did that, and then as long as you can knock one
Yeah.
shot the active, you got it.
But it doesn't one shot like all. It only does
Well, let's attack it right.
its first attack. It does 120, and then you flip a coin till you get tails and do 30 more. So it might just do like a coin flip whether you win after you get um 16 energy on this
Or
Pokemon.
probably a bunch of coin flips, right? Potentially.
Yeah, it's like not one-shotting multi-prize.
You
It's
do have the
almost
energy to
definitely.
retreat, pay the retreat cost though.
You do. You'd probably. I don't know. It was.
If you've got, but obviously you're trying to set this absurd
Yeah, there's
situation up.
this deck. You play like 9 supporters in one turn. It's pretty out there. But so there's some a metal tag team from well, Unbroken Bonds, right?
Are they both?
Uh, the metal.
Yeah, yeah, metal. So Lucario and Melmetal GX, which I enjoyed playing.
Yeah, I did not play
You
this.
didn't play, you didn't really like it. It's a defensive, tanky style deck, which I enjoy. So, which will fit with the VMAX I'll talk about too, I think. So it's GX attack, which you want to do for one full metal wall GX. It's been a while since I played. I got to kind of remember what it does. So the exact cost. So for 1 colorless energy for the rest of your game, your metal Pokemon take 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks after applying weakness and resistance. So fire was a thing, as we said, so that was an issue. But then coating metal came out later on.
Yeah, well, there was a metal frying pan before. I believe,
A tool, right?
yes, I believe between metal frying pan and coating metal. There's weakness guard that was like pretty much the same set. Next set, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
So there was a way to protect it, but yeah, obviously fire was concerned. But so it's a 260 HP Pokemon, by the way, and there were some other good metal Pokemon, which
yeah, that was Zacian V.
Zacian V, which ties into this and the other Pokemon we're going to
Yeah,
talk
and there's
about.
also some sent to V immune to VMAXs, which we'll talk about, but they were good.
Yeah, you could right later. Yeah, you could but probably I played 2 Zacians and 1 Zent, I
Wasn't
think.
it 4 Zacians and 2 Zamazenta's?
Oh, maybe I don't.
Because that would mean you play like four.
Oh yeah, that's not enough
I think
basics.
it was,
And
I think
that
you
was
played
it.
eight
So you didn't really
basics.
have an engine. But anyway, so that's for 1 colorless, and then if you
Which is
have
kind of absurd. You're taking 30 less for the rest of the game. That's
it's
like,
it's a right, it's a lot. You're taking right. So it's hard to get knocked out, and there were other ways to reduce damage too. There was what metal goggles
yeah,
and
metal
stuff.
goggles, metal frying pan.
So you had other damage reduction as well. Later on, Crystal Cave came into format, so you could
Yeah,
heal 30 between every turn. Every
much
turn.
later on. It was about when this
That
rotated.
I think that was right before it rotated. Yeah. If this and then if you have extra energy, if the Pokemon has at least 1 extra energy attached to it. So again, any type of energy, although they were in metal decks,
Yeah, well, this was played. It's was played
you
in
could toss
control.
it in.
Some it's played in control and expanded, but for a double colorless or a double turbo.
Right. If it has an extra energy, at least 1 extra energy attached to it, then discard all energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So very good, right? Potentially. Now so it was a strategic deck figuring out when to play it, right? Because in one sense you wanted to get that damage reduction done fast, but you also wanted to get rid of energy at a meaningful time, which meant you probably wanted your opponent to take a couple turns to develop their board state often.
Yeah, but then you're not reducing the damage,
Right.
so it's
So
kind
that
of
was so
sketchy.
there was it was a high mental chess, we'll say. Well, you
Yeah.
just said bad. It's slow. So anyways, it's designed to be tanky. You kind of could get it going quickly. It's a two energy cost to do the full GX attack, and then two attacks, which are useful as well.
Yeah,
Fist,
two other attacks.
right? Yeah, this has three full attacks, including the GX. So Steel Fist does 50 for two colorless, and then also you search your deck for a metal energy and attach it to this Pokemon. So that's good, especially if you've done the GX attack 260 HP. You're as long as it's not a fire attacker, you're not getting one shot. So you've done 50, not great, but you're getting a third energy. Then you can do 150. Well, it's four energy for the next turn, so you still need to attach an energy manually, but then you can do 150 the following turn.
Yeah.
So you're kind of getting 200 in combined plus the tankiness, and you would want to get rid of energy once ideally, so your opponent would miss an attack.
Yeah. Or at least be like put in a really weird position where they
Mhm.
can't do what they want. I want to say the two main attacks are pretty.
They're not great. That's
Yeah.
why you played the Zacian and Zamazenta. I don't know before those didn't come out till later on with the tag teams. Well, no, I guess they came out not that much.
Yeah, it was like a few sets after. It was like a few like 6 months or
Yeah, so
something.
that was important for this. But you had Zacian was a very good attacker. Was it 230
Yeah,
damage?
230 for three metals. And then there's Metal Saucer, which accelerate energy.
Right.
This was the deck. I think there are a lot of interesting things, and you liked it. You liked
Hmm.
that you could play there's a card called Tag Call.
Right. So this was one of the few tag team decks with a tag team Pokemon that took advantage of what I call the tag team package. A tag call, which you search your deck for I think any two tag team cards, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So that was good. You could get Pokemon and or supporters. I don't know if there were any other items, but and then there were three tag team supporters that saw a decent amount of play.
Yeah.
There were
Well,
a
there's some
couple.
controversial ones as well.
And they the tag and kind of like the tag team Pokemon, the tag team supporters had two options as well. They had a base one, and then it was usually like if you discarded some cards from hand, it had a second effect. In which one of the tag team supporters you would retreat to the bench and heal 120 off of that Pokemon. So that was like a natural pairing with this deck as well.
Yeah, I think the tag team supporters are cool. You like them a lot, I know. And then this was also a deck that it could use either version of the GX attack. As we said, Reshiram and Charizard
Right.
could, but I mean, it's probably not. You're probably using the first one.
With those, yeah, with Breath you wanted to usually do 200 your first turn.
Yeah. And then, but with this, there's a lot of interesting. There were different like routes you could go down, which made it interesting.
Yeah.
But as you said, as I said, I guess it's a slow deck.
It's a slow, tanky deck. It was right. I mean, right. It's doing less damage. You're just taking less damage. It's designed, and the attacks aren't damage levels weren't overwhelming.
Yeah, so you'd sometimes end up in long grindy games. Not like too bad though. You're only taking 30 less, maybe 60. Again with the like Crystal Cave, I want to say there's something else, maybe 90 less. But like
And
if you're only doing 90 damage every turn, you're probably not a very good deck.
yeah. Well, and then I'll just say, bro, there was Decidueye, which was immune to
Oh
these
yeah.
decks, and there was a metal attacker that hit through effects and would one shot Decidueye, I believe, or maybe two shot.
Yeah, it was pretty
But
good.
ultimately, if you didn't play that in your deck, essentially neither Pokemon was damaged each other all game.
Yeah, because resistance and then like stuff. So
Right, because this only had the GX and the V, so Decidueye was immune to those, and then you'd get the 30 damage reduction. You have the tool to reduce by 30, and then you could heal some, I think.
yeah. Well, so you have four options because you had resistance on
Oh, you had resistance as well.
Zacian and Zamazenta, which was minus 30. You'd be hitting 90. So
So you just it was a matter of who decks out, or if you're playing online, who times out, which
yeah.
wasn't real fun. But
No.
I did play some games like that too,
Yeah,
and
I played Decidueye and I played some games like that.
you just got to click fast online.
Yep. Or like quit. It doesn't really matter what happens. You'll just be sad. But then I think we have one last tag team to talk about. This is one of my favorites, many
Yeah.
people's least favorite. It's been a discussion for greatest card of all time, been in discussion for worst card of all time.
Yeah.
It's ADP, everyone's favorite molecule. No, although I imagine there are probably maybe a listener or two out there that does associate ADP with chemistry and biology as opposed to
Pokemon.
Pokemon. But today that's going to change ADP. This card was kind of broken. When I say kind of broken, it was really broken.
Well, it
Only
wasn't.
card to win the world championship after it rotated. It's, but No, anyway, so it's a dragon type, and it was weak to fairy. And if you know anything about fairy, you know it doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, and it's
Yes,
bad.
right.
Like it didn't. Like it kind of it
Even at the
sputtered
day,
out a
it
little.
wasn't that fairy weakness wasn't
Yeah,
that
they
bad
never
to me.
printed a lot of fairy cards. I mean, like it was okay at the time, but during the last year, there were only two fairy tag teams, so that's not a lot.
No.
I guess I should actually mention another card. I'll mention Reshiram and Zekrom. This one was like people thought it was going to be good. It
Yeah.
was not. So yeah, but probably the worst dragon. No, not the worst dragon tag team. There's Latios and Latias. I forget this card. It's bad.
Yeah, I don't remember those existed. The other one I probably saw a little bit of play, but you want to get into the reason why ADP was an evil deck.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about his first attack here, which I like. It's interesting. So it's kind of similar to Arceus V-Star. The cards have been compared some,
Hmm.
but Ultimate Ray for Water Metal Colorless, which is an interesting attack cost. Not an expanded. It's like weird. Expanded, just such a weird format. But in standard,
Hmm.
this weird, right? There's Metal Saucer, doesn't work with it. There's
Right.
Aqua Patch, doesn't work with it.
Yeah.
Um, but so you power this up. But you could Metal Saucer, which accelerates the metal energy. It's an item. You could
To a
energy
metal
switch.
too, right? So like to a Zacian or something, right? Then now the ADP was better later on, right?
Uh,
Or Zacian came out in the following
it
set.
was
Was
the
that
following
so?
set.
It wasn't long without.
It was weird. It feels like a long time because this was the GX era versus like the VMAX era.
Yeah.
It's a whole different like era, but it's only one set away,
Yeah.
essentially. And so you had Ultimate Ray. It does 150 for three, but an awkward three. And
Hmm.
then search your deck for up to three basic energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. Then shuffle your deck.
Yeah.
So yes, could be played, and obviously you need some metal and some water energies. There's like
Right.
some rainbow type energies, but you need a versatile, like a bunch of different types, and then you can tech in other attackers, which is pretty interesting, right?
Yes. I mean, metal was often what it was, but right, you potentially could any a toolbox, a box deck with the energy acceleration was a big part of it. It wasn't just the GX attacks, which we'll get to. And you had Aurora energy at the time. It
Yeah.
was a special energy that provided every type of energy when you attached. Was that the one? Wait, did it do 20 damage? Or you did
No,
discard? You discarded a card from hand.
yeah, it was Rainbow 20. I thought Rainbow was 10. Anyway,
Oh,
it does, yeah, so we had Aurora Energy in the set the Zacian V came out, the next set, so in Shield base set, and then you discard a card from a hand, which is actually nice a lot of the time.
it could be, yeah. And one card's not bad. So that because since you had the multiple energy types, Aurora energy was nice to help set up early on. And then you could also do it with the Bronzong, which came out. I don't know when that came
Yeah, that
out,
was a year later in Battle Styles.
which was a bit sketchy, but
Yeah, it was weird. So there's a Bronzor. So Bronzor is a stage one, but then there's a Bronzor, which is it's a basic that could evolve. It could let you evolve turn one going second, so you could play Bronzor. And you could do these weird things.
Bronzong has the ability to move your metal energy around between your Pokemon, right? As much as you want. Is that
Yes.
correct?
And so we've seen, I mean, it rotated a little while ago, a few months ago,
Hmm.
and it's a fun card. It hasn't ever been super good, but it was okay with this. And then, of course, it has its GX attack here,
Yeah.
which I've held off on talking about, but it's very good.
Alter Creation's
I
the
wish this
name,
is so
and
small. Yeah, or actually, Ultra Creation GX. All the
yeah.
GX attacks do have GX in their name, or at least the tag teams. I think the regular ones do.
Mhm.
But this does, for one metal, for the rest of the game, your Pokemon do 30 more damage. So this is the
Which is good.
opposite of Lucario and Melmetal,
Yes.
which is kind of interesting, kind of in my mind, and I think your mind, they're kind of
Yeah.
similar.
I'll be right. They're kind of the opposites, and but it's interesting because they both share metal. Now, this one is water as well, and they are also then partnered with Zacian and possibly even
Zamazenta.
Zamazenta.
Yeah.
So they were partnered with the same Pokemon, but one was an aggro deck, one was a walling defensive deck.
Yeah, but then you had this other part that says if you attach an extra water, so it's a one water, one metal, so less than the main attack, but a
Right,
little
just two
awkward.
energies.
Not too bad. For the rest of the game, whenever you took a knockout, you take an extra prize card.
Yeah.
That's kind of insane because, I mean, this means that against a single prize stack, instead of attacking six times,
Yeah.
which are presumably all one shots, then you attack four times, the three knockouts, which will give you six prizes, and then the alternate creation.
Right, the Alter Creation first, and then the three knockouts. So Yeah, it kind of made single prizers. I mean, single prizers have always been tough. It made single prizers probably worse than most times, I
Yeah.
think.
Oh, and one thing I guess we didn't say this about three prizes, but the fact that they give up three prizes means you don't need, and I'm actually currently in the process of making a video on deck building, but normally you play four of your attacker and
Right.
recovery, but this if two of these get knocked out, you lose. You don't need four of these. You don't need recovery from them,
Mm,
right?
no, you don't. So it's just a matter of how much are you gonna, if you play two copies and one's prized, can you navigate? And obviously, if both are prized, then I guess you probably just scoop at some
Yeah,
games. So
yeah. But also, but like that's an issue that, but that's like a luxury, right? You don't have to play as many. So that means that tag teams were just so good. They had so much extra deck space. You needed like
mhm,
two Pokemon in slots in your deck for attackers, as opposed to like,
right.
say if you're playing Charizard, that's like 10 or something.
Right, you don't have any evolutions, and right, so yeah, yeah, that helped a lot. And like with both the Luke and the ADP, you're pairing it with just basic Vs. So again, you don't have you just have a Pokemon part of your deck is not a lot of deck space.
Yeah. But then this was also there's a Dedenne GX we've mentioned,
Yeah,
which was definitely the best GX of this era that wasn't a tag team of like this year. And then
right.
because the tag teams all came out in one year, kind of alluded to that but didn't directly say it. It was a really good card, like absurd. I don't know if I'd say it's absurd. Would you say it's absurd?
Well, Dynamic GX, if you're putting like top Pokemon of all time cards, this is at least in the consideration, if not like up there, right?
Yeah.
Like
So
top
it's
top
fair.
10 cards or something. It's in the mix
It's
anyway.
like Squawkability EX, but every turn. Well, it's
It
on
does
play.
not just your first turn.
Yeah.
Right. It's an on playability, but don't forget at the time we had quick ball, not nest ball, so
Yeah.
it works. So you would get it to hand. Obviously with nest ball, it would be a lot worse now.
Yeah. Although still good.
Right. You still might play it because it's not restricted to first turn, which obviously limits the times you want a squawkabilly.
Yeah. And then, but it had the same HP of 160, and then there's Crobat V, which had 180. There was,
Hmm.
I think Tapu Lily, I don't remember when that card came out. I think it might have rotated, but there have been a lot of cards that have like
It's
180.
all one play. I mean,
If
Crobat V, did you
yeah, I said
say?
Crobat V, LDS V, was that 180? I think it
Or
was maybe
170 or
170.
something. But again,
Um,
uh, ADP would one shot it after its
yeah.
GX attack. So
So,
for
and that's
three
for three prizes.
prizes.
So you knock
Yeah.
out two weak Pokemon on the bench, and you just win. This card was good. I enjoyed playing it. Well, it was really good. So, so that was, and this was a
Yeah.
time, and again, PCGO, you couldn't really get many decks. So this was the
No.
deck I ended up getting. We got some other decks which we'll talk about, but
Yeah, I think you started doing PTCGO earlier than me. I think you might have got on the ladder. I think I started after it was on the ladder. I had missed that, so therefore it was tough to get.
maybe,
I don't know, or maybe I just didn't feel like spending that. I was tend to be cheap and play a
yeah.
lot of
I was also, we were both
decks.
free to play. We are free to play players. Essentially, we have bought a few things, but
Right.
mostly free. And then these were, I think all the tag teams we've mentioned were on the ladder near the end. They're just like giving away stuff, which is kind
Yeah,
of
I mean
fun, I
sometimes
guess.
right they would do it towards the end of the life cycle for these, which is good, I guess.
Yeah, I mean you can play it.
But you would have missed out like for a year or more of it being really dominant, right? Like when ADP was new, I don't know that it was freely available. Probably, and because of the
Yeah,
trading system, would have been very expensive to try and get.
yeah. One thing, how much are tag teams? I have no idea how much tag teams are in live.
Oh, the
Do you know?
tag.
Because VMAXs are really expensive right now.
Yeah, I don't know if they're
Um,
the same thing as I, as
Regular GXs,
yeah, I'm
VXs.
not sure. So
Yeah. Anyway, but they're because they haven't been in standard since Live's been out. So, um, but let's move on to VMAXs now, and I guess I'll talk quickly about Dragapult Vmax, which was the first dominant Vmax. This card was and right on time, scheduled time-wise, which is surprising. This like never happens. But I'm trying to find the VMAXs, the live searching. It's not that bad. I'm just not that familiar with it.
in line, yeah.
Um, that's sort of my
And because
experience.
you can't have, look, Live has its issues. One of the things, like when you're working on something like this, is you can't look at the GXs and the VMAXs together, which isn't good. And then one of my big issues, you can't see like a VMAX or a V Star and the basic V Evolves from the same time, which
Yeah.
these are just things that you should be
I mean,
able
you
to do.
can, but it just mixed in with everything else.
Oh, well, you could just sort look at every Pokemon,
Yeah.
every Pokemon in the game. But yeah, so anyway. That's right. You had to flip around. So you want to talk to Dragapult? You want to talk about for a minute?
Yeah, so Dragapult. So there was the first set, Sun Shield base set. It didn't really have any great VMAXs. There's Lapras with Frostmoth. So yeah, you remember Frostmoth, right?
Frostmoth.
Frostmoth, not VMAX, the single prizer that accelerated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that was good.
I mean, I hated it because it wouldn't work for me.
Yeah,
But
no, it wasn't very consistent. But Rebel Clash, we saw
but this came out in Rebel Clash. So, but did Scarlet and Violet? I mean, Sword and Shield base set, did it have any VMAX?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, Lapras with Frostmoth, right?
that was
But
it. Okay.
that was the best one. There was Stone Joiner. This deck was
Oh, Stone Journey, which saw some play
It's not played
on.
later on. It was probably arguably the most like toxic deck I ever played against. It's really not fun. You just like sit there and heal like for like 20 turns.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll get to that.
So the first set, the initial set didn't really have any good VMAX. It had very good VMAX.
Yeah, Zacian, and it had all the like staples. This is the first time we got Marnie. That card was so good.
Yeah.
I mean that set was so good. It had like Chinchino, Oranguru,
Did it have Quick Ball even?
and a Quick Ball reintroduced or introduced really Quick Ball.
Right.
The real Quick Ball. I don't even know what the other one was, but
Yeah. So Rebel Clash, the second set in Sword and Shield, came out with Dragapult, which is good, and we have the new Dragapult EX coming out, which is very similar. It's
some upgrade.
It's
I
better,
guess.
although it's a stage 2, so that's the
Yeah,
negative.
and more awkward energy. It's the first Dragon Pulse, so weird energy.
Yeah. So this one, and you like Dragapult more than I did probably, and I didn't get it.
Yeah, I didn't get it either.
I got it eventually. It had 2 attacks. It had a Shred attack, which hits 2 effects, which is fine for 60, but 60 for 1. The problem is there's no energy acceleration with it, this deck, and I felt like when I played it, I wouldn't get my energy. But so 2 energies, Max Phantom did 130. Yippee, let's have a party. Oh wait, that still wasn't even that good back then. Then you put 5 damage countering your opponent's bench Pokemon if you like, which could be good, but but it might not be good depending on what they're playing. And I just found, and hammers are a real thing too. And if you either missed energy or if your opponent hit heads on a hammer, you just didn't attack for a turn.
Yeah, Crushing Hammer, but it wasn't played as much back like right now. It was weird. There's like some control stuff, but Dragapult Vmax it ended up being pretty good. Yeah, it was the first like really dominant Vmax. During this set we also had Inteleon Vmax, the not Rapid Strike one. This one was fun. It was another spread attacker, and there's also Cinder. And we had all the starters. So we had Cinderace, which was interesting, a welder Pokemon, but
Right. But Dragapult was dominant. Was it the best deck?
yeah, I think so. I don't know exactly, but it was like the big new deck. It's like every set we have. When I first got Violet, we had Gardevoir, then we had Jump Out, then we had Charizard, and we had I don't know what the last one was. It could have been, or it could have been Roaring Moon. I don't know, but
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, but Dragapult was very good besides being the new thing. So
and then there was people trying to counter it with like Spiritomb, which is a darkness attacker, but it
right, so
had
it's like
no HP.
it's like again, it's weak to dark. So Pokemon then says, all right, you spent your money. I'm looking at the price history. You're spending $20 to buy your copy of Dragapult when it first came out.
Yeah.
And then Pokemon goes ahead the next set, Darkness Ablaze, and Prince Eternatus Vmax.
Which is a darkness Pokemon.
Right.
To guess.
And that was the poster Pokemon for that set. And
One of the two.
What's the other one?
Well, it's Darkness Ablaze. So the other one, Fire Pokemon, Scorch Vmax.
Scorch, yeah.
But yeah, Turnus was the better one.
Yeah, and because obviously partly because it hit for weakness, and it was a good deck. What it did is, and I got onto playing this fairly early. You didn't like it because it was a bit of a straightforward deck. Partly is I bought a lot of Darkness Ablaze packs in the in-game store, and I pulled a lot of Eternatuses, so I didn't have to craft too much. Honestly, that was part of it. Trade, right.
Crafting would have been
sorry,
nice, but...
yeah, it would have been right. So anyway, it had the attack was Dread End for 2 energies, Darkness Colorless, and does 30 for each of your bench Darkness Pokemon in play.
Or not bench, it includes itself.
Include itself. So if you with a regular bench, that's 180, but then it had the Eternal Zone ability, all your Pokemon in play. If they're all Darkness type Pokemon, you can have up to 8 Pokemon on your bench, and you can't play any non-Darkness Pokemon. So you could have 8. So now 9 plus itself. So you're doing 270, which was a very nice number. Not quite what you'd like, but
Then there were some ways to add to it there were a few. There was Glare and Zigzagoon.
Right, the Ping, right, which is a darkness Pokemon. When you played it, you put, was it one damage
Yeah,
counters
one
on one
damage counter.
Pokemon? We had Scoop Up Net because that was legal. You could play that multiple times. So you played Galarian Zigzagoon. You had Crobat V, which was one of the very good support Pokemon. And this deck, I would play for Crobat V because you could just keep doing it every turn. Draw.
And you need to fill your bench as
You
well.
need Pokemon and bench. You always want to have a bench, and then so you have a good engine there. So it was a fairly straightforward deck. Again, two energies. So if you missed an energy or your opponent hit a hammer, it was bad. The basic V had an energy acceleration attack that was important too.
Yeah, and also one thing I do want to say, VMAX are often criticized. Tag teams are also criticized. People complain, but
Yeah.
they were more criticized when they were in the game. But tag teams, the three priors in general, are criticized for being just like really powerful, which they were, especially like with Eternatus. This was the first, in my opinion, truly powerful one. But the VMAXs didn't have a lot of attacks. Usually just had one attack, maybe two. But it's like there's one thing you want to be doing. But we'll talk about that again a little later. They later on made them more interesting.
Yeah, so Eternatus Vmax had 340 HP, by the way, so very high. I don't know what had higher HP before that came out.
Nothing has ever had higher.
340 is the peak ever.
Yeah, in terms of just a number on a standard playable card.
Without any modification, like an ability or something. So this was super tanky, and I think Mad Party came out with this set too, right? When it came out, so that was obviously played a lot as well. But like that was one of the better single prize decks. I know it really was, right?
Yeah, and that wasn't so good against Dragapult.
No, it was bad against Dragapult, and obviously you had ADP in format that they're just wiping you out. And Eternatus, it would take you a bunch of turns where you even two-shot Eternatus Vmax, right? So like a single prize deck was sort of unplayable, right? You did have the Welder box with baby Blounds. That was probably what you could. That was like about the only single prize way to compete with these big tanky Pokemon.
Yeah,
I'm sure there are other decks,
but that was also like a quote single prize deck. It played probably Reshiram and Charizard.
Yeah, and obviously the Dene, and it would play the Cramorant to hit the bench. So yes, I know it was.
And Heatran GX, and
that's true.
And Oricorio GX, and it would play Crobat.
Oh, that's right, Oricorio GX
maybe,
too.
and it might play Eldegoss V. So it wasn't exactly a single prize.
Well, even the Mad Party deck, quote single prize deck, played the Dene GX, and it would might play Oricorio.
Well, and it would play Crobat V as well.
Yeah, so it's got, but in that case you weren't attacking with the fire deck. You were attacking with them, but it made single prize decks really difficult, and that's part of why people don't like three prize Pokemon, right?
Yeah, I think like if they'd been more balanced, they would have been more interesting. This does 270 for two, but actually it's probably more because you can play Glare and Zigzagoons. You can just play as many. You can play like a ton.
Right, you had net, and you wanted to fill up your bench, so you'd play four Glare and Zigzagoons with 4 net in the deck, quite possibly, and so you're just going to town with a deck like that.
Yeah, and then I guess now is the time. I'm going to talk about a bunch of VMAXs real quick because they did this weakness thing that was like super, kind of not good, quite frankly. But so Dragapult is said weak to darkness, darkness, and Eternatus countered it, which is darkness, weak to fighting.
Yeah.
Next set. The big new Pokemon. This set is known for being bad, I think, by a lot of people.
This is
Vivid Voltage. Yep. But the best Pokemon, I guess, or the best attacker, I don't even remember what was in the set. It was Colossal Vmax. It's fighting, but it was bad. So
it was just good initially, right?
Well, it was like theoretically
good.
It was good in Japan where they had more cards.
Now Vivid Voltage had the lightning item lock. Which I'm
no, that was Darkness to Blaze.
Actually. Oh, that
was Vikavolt V.
Oh, Vikavolt was on that deck? Okay.
Yeah, but we'll talk about some and go through a bunch. So the fighting, they failed with Colossal, failed with Spearmint.
Yeah.
So the next set, they're like, okay, we're going to do a fighting set, Rapid Strike, Urshifu Vmax, fighting Pokemon. But not only, it actually doesn't one-shot Eternatus, really, but it can one-shot 2 Crobat Vs on the bench. So we'll get to that.
That's pretty rough. And they had a single strike Urshifu, right?
Single strike Urshifu Vmax, which did just absurd damage. But then, and these got a little more interesting. But then, so the fighting new top deck, weak to Psychic. Next set, Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax. I've lost it.
Hmm.
I don't know.
So
There we go. It's
psychic
Psychic,
Pokemon.
weak to Darkness. Finish the cycle. Umbreon Vmax. Hits
Like
Shadow
Zapdos.
Rider.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we didn't have like a grass Pokemon because they couldn't manage to make a good grass type Pokemon. But
Right. So you had this little three type weakness triangle that everyone was gaming.
yeah, that
And
every
Pokemon companies gaming too for their own profit, perhaps, if it
yeah,
wants to be
like every
cyclical.
set it just like canceled out the best card. But
Yeah.
eventually got ended with Mew VMAX. They couldn't really beat that.
Well,
Um,
that's not. I mean, they kept preventing counters to Mew like every set.
yeah,
It
they
seems
just couldn't
like.
figure out how to beat it.
Yeah.
We're not really gonna talk about it.
That
It's
no,
good,
that's not today's
but we
thing.
don't feel yeah.
I think we're going to talk about counters in another podcast, right?
Yeah, and that will definitely be brought up. And
We're not.
Eternatus will be brought up.
And we're not going to talk about Mew VMAX. It's obviously very good. There's obviously some good cards we're not going to discuss.
Yeah, but you want to talk about, or I guess we both want to talk about Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. You want to talk about its attacks.
Yeah, so this is obviously, again, Rapid Strike. A VMAX evolves from a V. It's 330 HP, a good number, a very solid number there. It's Rapid Strike, which had also like the artillery to help set it up. And this also, the Rapid and the battle styles then they had trainers and energies to go with them too. Kind of like the GXs,
Yeah,
tag
and
teams and sets.
the
But
Rapid
even
Strike
more
energy was
so.
very important to the second attack.
Right, so two attacks, both had value. Gale Thrust, the first one for one fighting energy, did 30 damage. Plus, if this Pokemon moved from the bench to the active spot this turn, it did 120 more, so it would do 150. You'd have to move it after you evolve, so you make that mistake
Yeah.
once, and hopefully you remember.
Yeah. Oh, and one thing as well is that we were talking about like this Pokemon ADP was one-shotting, and they were like all weak to fighting. So, so this was pretty good here as well.
Yeah, so 150 for one energy was Sharon's Care, or that was later. That healed, or no, the one, no, not Sharon's Care, the
Oh,
one,
Cheryl. Yeah, Cheryl came out in this set.
Cheryl, which would heal off all your damage from all your evolution Pokemon, but discard all the energy. So this had an attack for one energy, which so that was nice. And then actually the second attack even worked better with Cheryl because it was G-Max Rapid Flow for three energy, fighting colorless. And to pay that, the Rapid Strike energy provided two energies of any combination of water and fighting, or I guess it provided both types at the same time. I don't know exactly what it said.
Yeah.
So it would provide. So you need a third energy, which you'd have to figure that one out. But then you would 120 to two of your opponent's Pokemon both be on the bench or active in bench, and then you discard all the energy from this Pokemon. So ideally, Cheryl, you have no energy to lose, so that would be awesome if they could knock you out. 330 HP, very big, and this obviously even probably more oppressive in a sense to single prize decks because you're just wiping out two Pokemon with one shot, or like you said, and then there was Passimian. I don't remember if that was this set or not.
Next set, I believe.
So and that did what 30 more of your opponent's Pokemon V on the bench.
Something like that.
It only affected the bench, I think, right?
It was Rapid Strike Pokemon. And then there was a Telescopic Sight, which
did
was the
30
set.
more to the bench Pokemon, of any bench Pokemon.
V is in GX as well, but it
just
didn't
V
have
is
to
in
be on a Rapid Strike card.
Right. So the 120 can become 180. So you're knocking out all the support Pokemon, the Crobat, the Dedenne, whatever they want to stick on the bench. These multi-prize, two-prize support Pokemon. So potentially four prizes there. So very effective deck. And with Gale Thrust, it had the Stadium that gave free retreat, or reduced by two, I guess.
Yeah, every retreat to every Rapid Strike Pokemon except for Malamar. Malamar had free retreat.
Did it? Okay, but you never retreat a Malamar.
Yeah, I actually don't know. I think there's every little bit.
And see, Malamar, you hate Malamar, but that also was one of the better single prize decks around, right?
Yeah, and it did hit this for weakness, which was nice.
Yeah. But so very, just very good. And Rapid Strike was an interesting one because it came out initially, especially with that first set, and then the second set when you got Simeon was really very good. It kind of fell off some, but then it came back later on too. And there were a lot of different ways. How do you get the three energies on? So Melanie was one way because it was a V Pokemon, and the third was any type you wanted. So a Rapid Strike energy and a Melanie you could attack. So ways to try to stream attacks was something to do too.
Yeah, and there's some more out there ways. I think there was Galarian Moltres V with the energy switch, which wasn't like absurd, especially because if Darkness, it's Galarian Moltres V, it's a Darkness Pokemon.
Hmm.
It counters the Psychic Pokemon that are countering Urshifu, so that was interesting. I also
Right.
said there was Jirachi GX to turn off the weakness. I did remember that.
Right, which could go on this deck as well. And I forgot what I was going to say now.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so there was I guess we'll talk about on the screen. I'll talk about another Vmax you like, which was not so
I
good
don't know that I
against.
like it, but I played it.
You like it, right? You think it's like fun.
It's amusing, yeah.
So this one was not so good against Urshifu. Crobat Vmax. You wanna read out what it does?
Sure. So I played, well, partly I was playing Dark decks with a lot of, so I had like 4 Crobats. It's a
Yeah,
Crobat VMAX, and what's better? The VMAX is always better than the V, except in the
exactly.
case,
Yeah.
this is one of the cases that's not. But well, anyway, you play it with Weezing too potentially. So the first attack's what you often use for 2 energy. Stealth Poison does 70 Yippee on my
Yeah,
VMAX
for two.
for 2.
You could be doing 270 with Eternatus, but you can do 70 with Crobat.
You didn't play Crow VMAX in the Eternatus deck. At least
No,
I don't. I
it
probably
feels like
tried it, but and then you'd switch it. Opponent's Pokemon's poison, so let's go there. And then you'd switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, which is why Galarian Weezing was kind of the thought behind it, because then Weezing turned off all abilities of all your opponent's Pokemon. Very, very
yeah,
powerful.
yeah. This is stage one if it's in the active,
Right.
but it's really good.
So you could hit and run. Although, as you'd say, Weezing would poison for like 4 damage counters on per turn.
Yeah,
So potentially the Weezing could would be as effective or almost as effective as the Crobat.
yeah.
But
And if you poison like for a certain amount, like that's not normal poison, or it could be normal poison, then you poison a different amount. So you can normally poisons one every turn, but going Wheezing just poisons four every turn would actually overwrite, and potentially if you over the course of multiple turns, you'd actually be doing less damage because you attacked.
right.
And reduce the poison from 4 to 1. Did that come up? Not really, but it was just, not so good. It has 300 HP. It's weak to fighting. So for 1 energy, it's a 3
Right.
project. Gets one-shotted by Urshifu, which isn't so good.
Right. It was iffy there. There was, like with the Weezing deck, there was what Hiding Darkness energy, which went in my Crobat deck. I mean, the Eternus deck sometimes that gave a Darkness Pokemon free retreat.
Yeah.
So that was useful because, like, if you want to set up the Weezing and retreat back, I do think the Crobat V, I mean VMAX, I think Azul maybe someone teched it into a deck surprisingly and did well. Might
It's
have won an event
yeah.
because it fixed some of the numbers, right? It wasn't getting one shot in certain matches and kind of fixed
Yeah, I think it
things.
was Sylveon VMAX was the deck, which let's talk about now, actually.
Hmm.
Um,
And that deck played Crobat V, so then getting the VMAX as an
it just
option,
survives more.
I think so, yeah.
But if it does get knocked out, it's bad. But then we have all the evolutions, including Sylveon. This had a fun little attack. Some of
Hmm.
you may know the Rainbow Road deck. It's pretty old by now, but also I don't know why it was called that. But anyway, so it does Max Harmony. It does 70 for 3 colors and 30 more for each different type of Pokemon on your bench. Pretty fun there. And so you want lots of different Pokemon. You're running Crobat V.
Right. So which lends itself to nice box style decks, which is always fun.
Yeah, although, okay, so let's talk more about Rapid Strike because I think there's a few Rapid Strike Pokemon VMAX. I mean, you want to talk about Blaziken?
That is one of the Rapid Strike VMAXs,
It
and of
is.
course I always
Yeah.
play that in Sylveon. It was a little sketchy, but so I don't remember what its attack was called, but it would
Yeah. Oh, one thing as well I want to say, all the VMAXs, they have their quote main attack is Max something or G Max something. There's
mhm.
Dynamaxes and Gigantamaxes. Doesn't matter, no, but they do. So the Gigantamaxes have G Max something, and
Mhm.
the Dynamaxes have Max something, which is interesting.
So Blaziken VMAX, which was the giant chicken, I believe. So look out. Here
Yeah.
comes the chicken to stomp on you. But Max Blaze for 2 colors energy, which you could pay for with a Rapid Strike energy, because we didn't have double turbo at the time, nor double colorless, I don't think, right?
No.
So you had to Rapid Strike energy. It did 130, which isn't great, but then you chose up to 2 of your bench Rapid Strike Pokemon. So you have a bunch of Rapid Strike Pokemon, different types, often with a Sylveon box. So when you do it, you attach an energy card for you just about to each of them. So it just led up to a box style deck.
Yeah, and it can
Didn't have fun.
accelerate special energy, the Rapid Strike energy, which was really nice.
Right, because like with this deck, there was the regular Rapid Strike energy that provided 2, and there was Spiral energy. So a lot of times I have like you could then like toss in like Zero or a V. I don't know if you're going to bring that one up. That's not a VMAX,
Yeah.
but that one you're going to talk about
Oh no, I
that.
wasn't because it's not a VMAX.
It's not right. But you also get like a Rapid Strike V because it would provide the lightning energy that it needed as well. So kind of a nice way to kind of alternate your attacks. Of course, it's water weak, and as water got to be good, well, then you don't want to have your three prize for getting one
Yeah,
shot.
and it got to be good with a certain Pokemon here,
Yeah, yeah. One I like
which was in the same set as Blaziken.
it was. Although, and this is Ice Rider. Although at the time, Shadow Rider was the bigger deal.
It was a
At
bigger deal,
first.
but it was actually not played that much more than Ice Rider.
I don't know which was more successful. In
I
my
think
mind,
long term
Shadow
Ice
Rider
Rider
was.
was
Yeah, Ice Rider had legs. Shadow Rider kind of had
they
a
both
funny
had legs. They
comeback
both
late
had
on.
legs.
Oh
It's the
yeah,
same
the
person. It's the
horses.
same
Oh,
person.
that's right. It's the rider. It's not
Yeah,
the
it's the Ice Rider. It's not.
not the horse.
Yeah.
I take that back. It's not the steed. So it does, what is it? One, you did two for two water energies. It does 10 for two energies. Oh, that's not good. But then you discard up to two energies and does 120 more per energy discarded, right? So it can do 250, which is just not enough, quite not enough to knock anything out.
Yeah.
But I love the deck.
Yeah, no, there are ways to boost damage. There's an Inteleon, a Rapid Strike Inteleon, Choice
That
Belt.
would ping, right?
Yeah.
Do 20
Yeah, there's a
damage.
Choice Belt, Choice Band. I keep getting confused.
Yeah,
There's
it
a
would do
Choice
30 more.
Belt,
So then you're doing 250. So that one is a good number.
280.
280, sorry, yeah.
And 250 is not like that bad. It one-shots basic Vs.
hmm
Um,
And did Melanie come out in this set?
yeah, Melanie was the same set as this, and
So that would accelerate your water energy because you had to power. Because hopefully you weren't getting one shot because that was real bad.
yeah, Metal was kind of good with Zacian V, which was a bit of a problem for this card.
Yeah, how much? Yeah, again, the weakness. It's not the same weakness triangle, but weakness was obviously a concern.
Yeah, there's a different, which is there's fire, metal, water. Technically, I don't know if that was really brought up.
Right.
And then I think are there any other Pokemon you want to bring up?
I don't think so. I think we've covered a bunch here.
Yeah,
I mean, there's like my boy Surfing Pikachu, but you don't want to talk
Yeah,
about
that
him.
card's not good. But the one last Pokemon we need to talk about. So how would you power this up? Like if you actually wanted to power it up,
With its three waters. Okay, so the thing that so it's
like now, if you were on right before it rotated.
you have Melanie to get
Yeah.
one energy. You play with Arceus.
Yeah,
That-
exactly.
that's the thing. I will say because what it is, it's a lightning Pokemon. Yes, but it takes water energy. So you could accelerate energy to it with Flappy, except the attack is only water energy. You could accelerate energy with Dr. Trainer, but again, it doesn't help it. So it was sketchy. It was fun. It was it was kind of dumb.
Yeah, there is a Frostlass, Palkia V-Star, but they can't accelerate it to it because it's not water. But yeah, as you said, Arceus V-Star, not a VMAX, but it helped enable a lot of VMAXs. There are some
Yeah.
absurdly terrible ones, in my opinion, but the saw play Aggron VMAX, still in standard, but it doesn't really see too much play.
No.
It does 270 for 5, and then damages itself, so that isn't so
Yeah,
good.
you're offsetting the tankiness. So.
Yeah, there's Gyarados VMAX, which did 240 for 4, but that's all played with Arceus.
Yeah, you could play anything with Arceus is kind of partly what it meant.
Yeah, there's another one. I think there's Charizard VMAX. It's all played to 300 for 5. So you play this with Arceus.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of evolutions and Duraludon VMAX as well. This one
Potentially was good. It had flashes, is what I'll say.
Yeah.
You could play the attack cost being a dragon was what fighting
Metal.
metal. Now, when it first came out, there was Metal Saucer, and there was a Metal Duraludon V, so you could try to Metal Saucer to it before it evolved, which was actually pretty important, and play it with Zacian in the deck.
Yeah, but then you just like Zacian V as like your engine or something. It wasn't very good.
But its ability, Skyscraper ability, it's immune to, doesn't take damage from any Pokemon with special energy attached, right?
Yeah,
which at times has been a big deal.
Yeah, it has. And there's a Mew VMAX, which we shouldn't really talk about, but that was all special energy. So you
Right.
just stick this up and like pass a lunge because you probably wouldn't set up, and you'd manually attach like 3 times. No, you'd manually attach, and then you like realize, oh, I don't have my fighting energy. Where is it? Oh, it's not there. And then you'd like manually attach.
You
like,
could pass like 15 turns though, because
yeah.
all they
Well,
play.
no, but because they have
Oh, the one
like,
attack,
dog
right, to
attack.
hit through it. It was actually kind of interesting how to sequence that one.
Yeah, it was theoretically interesting. Not really for Duraludon. I feel like it's interesting for the Mew
The Mew
VMAX.
player had the Mew player had the decision making, but look, it had some value.
With Arceus, it was really good though, really solid.
It was okay.
It was good. It was like a top
Yeah, I mean,
10 deck,
look,
I
I played
think.
Duraludon for sure a number of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Well, there's my boy Sandaconda Vmax, who can attack for one energy, and you Cheryl away, and hopefully you don't get knocked out because you're only doing I think 60, and then you
Yeah,
spread what
60,
20 or
20,
30.
60.
So I don't like spread decks. That's part of why I like Surfing Pikachu was a spread deck, Sandaconda spread deck.
Yeah.
You gotta
Yeah.
love that.
Oh, and then I guess we'll talk about Flying Pikachu VMAX and the Pokemon that won
Since
the
it won the
World.
World
It did
Championship,
win the
yeah.
World Championship. That's probably what it'll forever be remembered for. It's kind of weird. It's kind of goofy. When it came out, it was in a mini set. People just thought like, what is this weird card? And there's the V, which is like really weird. It walls basics, and then it hits lightning weakness, and it's free retreat. So it ended up being super good in the
Right,
meta.
it had free retreat, so
Um,
it was okay being at your starter because you could just get it back to the bench.
yeah, and it was a Pokemon that just ended up being like at the right place at the right time.
Right. I mean, the V you didn't really want to attack with, though. Coin flip paralyzed wasn't good, and the other would did 120, but on coin flip it did nothing
Well,
on the V.
on Tails it did nothing, but on Heads you were completely
Oh, you're
immune.
immune to damage
So this was
and
like,
effects of
I
attacks the
know,
next turn. So it was
this is the ultimate like
coin
risk,
flip thing.
which you'd use in games, and you'd just be like so scared,
Both
'cause
players are scared.
yeah, I know, but yeah. Anyway, that's all for today's podcast. We hope you enjoyed. Um, and tell us what you think of the three prizes and your favorite ones and your least favorite ones down below if you are watching on YouTube.
Yeah, and if you're one of those people that hated ADP back in the day, now that it's gotten some time, have you softened on it, or do you still get nightmares and get the tremors when someone talks
Yeah,
about that?
yeah, ADPTSD. So yeah, that's all for today's video though, or podcast. Subscribe to 10 Types and Uncommon Fossil on YouTube, and we are also on podcasting platforms
Yep.
if you want to listen there, where you can it like gives you certain things you can do. But we hope you enjoyed, and we're excited to see you next time.
Take care.